welcome back to my film and TV channel. Let's have a look at the end of seemingly end of another franchise, certainly end of a little trilogy we've had since about 2018, 2019. We're going to have a look at Halloween Ends today. It's nearly Halloween, so I wanted to get this in before the 31st of October, so join me as we look at Halloween Ends. Please, if you're new to the channel, push that subscribe button, push the bell notifications. I try and inform and entertain if I can as well on these with my, obviously, critics' views, the public views, my own views as well, thrown in my own little two pennyworth. On this one, yes, I sort of disagree with the majority on this one. I'll tell you that now, in fairness, because it's not overly liked by the public or the critics, this one. Please leave us your comments. It's all opinions, isn't it? As I say, I was just happy to, and I didn't look at the scores before I watched it. I was just quite happy with what I saw on screen. Please, give us a thumbs up, guys. It'd be much appreciated. Make an old film and TV watcher very, very happy. Right, 111 minutes, which for me was just a little bit long, but it wasn't too bad. I didn't glaze over too much watching this one. 18 certificate, horror, thriller, slasher film, an old slasher, that's more important. Sequel to Halloween Kills from 2021. And the 13th, yeah, unlucky for some, or lucky, depending which way, if you're not, what's the word? If you're not that way inclined, anyway, superstitious, that's it, if you're not superstitious. The 13th instalment in the Halloween franchise, and the final film in the trilogy, as I mentioned, of the sequels that started with the 2018 film, and which followed on from the 1978 film, which was nice. Directed by David Gordon Green and co-written by Green, McBride, Paul Brad Logan and Chris Bernier. And it stars, yes, the wonderful Jamie Lee Curtis, Andy Matichak, Rohan Campbell, Will Patton, Kyle Richards and James Jude Courtney. And all these scores and comments are as at the 26th of October 2022 at 10 a.m. Rotten Tomatoes audience, okay, 57% positivity, so almost 60%, which I like to see, so that's not too bad. Internet Movie Database, though, a little bit less, only 5 out of 10, with a 44% positivity, so half the people who watched it were negative. Fair enough. Metacritic 4.7 out of 10. That's the Metacritic users, not the critics. That's the users. That's the guys who go on the website. 198 people left a score, and 76 were positive, 25 were mixed, and 97 though, so the majority were negative on this. That's why it's ended up as a 4.7 out of 10 if you work on mathematics. What's it about? Well, it's really about Corey Cunningham as well as our masked hero, isn't it? And it's more based on Corey Cunningham, which I liked, actually. I like the emphasis on a couple of guys being horrible people, although obviously Corey probably will reflect on his treatment as to how he became horrible, but hey, it's what it is. Corey Cunningham is a young man who falls in love with Laurie Strode's granddaughter, while a series of events, including crossing paths with Michael Myers, upend his life and render him a murderous outcast. They certainly do. Apparently, John Carpenter described the film as a departure from its predecessors. Yeah, I thought it was a little bit different, I thought, which I liked. All right, not different in a totally unique sense sort of way, but certainly a little bit different, and that's what I liked about it. Halloween Ends was theatrically released on October the 14th, 2022, more or less, around the world, so it will be very slightly to that. And it did actually stream for a couple of months simultaneously on the paid tiers of Peacock. If you have Peacock, so for a couple of months you've had the opportunity to watch it at home, which things like this, yeah, it doesn't really bother me, the size of a screen watching this as opposed to watching on the big cinema. It's nice to watch with other people and get reactions, of course it is, but I always prefer to watch on my own or with my good lady anyway. The critics, what about the critics? They say the public, not overly impressed, not a total disaster, but the public weren't fantastic. The Rotten Tomatoes critics, again, quite low, just 41% positivity. That's based on 228 critics. And it did average 5.1 out of 10, so it did claw its way over the halfway mark. 93 fresh, which is fine, but 135 rotten Tomatoes. And the consensus, Halloween Ends for now anyway, with a frequently befuddled instalment that's stabbed, slashed and beaten by a series of frustrated missed opportunities. Okay. I'll have a bit more on the critique in a minute. Metacritic uses a weighted average, assigned the film a score of 47 out of 100. So again, very similar scores, aren't we? Just under that sort of halfway mark. That was based on 45 critics. 11 were positive, 25 mixed, so not a total disaster, and just nine negative, so not too bad. And it scored anywhere between 20 out of 100 on Metacritic, and 75 was the highest on Metacritic. Right, let's name and acclaim, or name and blame. Let's have a look at a few names, a few publications. Dylan Roth from The Observer here in the UK said, an engaging and suspenseful psychological thriller that could have functioned totally independently of the Halloween series, but works in concert with what's most interesting about Green's prior to entries. I think this, personally, as I said, I'm more or less against most of the people. I thought this was one of the better of its type of this year, certainly. I'm not going to say in time in perpetuity, but certainly for this year, it's one of the better efforts, I thought. Wendy I, though, from The Observer, she's not so happy. Wendy's a bit miserable sometimes. Wendy, cheer up, love. It's time that Myers and his mouldy old mask for later rest, she says. Let's hope nobody decides to disinter him yet again. I agree with the point about obviously something having its time. It doesn't mean it's a bad effort though for me, and of course Wendy. But I'm used to Wendy. Occasionally she likes something, but not often. Kevin Mayer from the Times UK. Another not overly impressed. A bit harsh this from Kevin. Essentially, this film essentially shrugs its shoulders midway through and delivers a tedious plethora of gory, often misogynistic. I can't even say the word, guys. Misogynistic torture, porn killings. The franchise tank is officially empty. I think Kevin's being really harsh. I mean, it's a slasher movie, porn killings, really, Kevin? I'm not convinced. I'm not too sure about what, unless I dozed off of that element. I don't know, but just get over yourself, mate. I think you've been a bit overly harsh on that one. Ed Power from the Daily Telegraph. Let's get back to a positive. If Halloween Ends is often sluggish and silly, Myers powers through the mediocrity, one brutal swipe at a time. I don't think it was that sluggish. A bit silly, but what horror isn't silly, and to some extent. And I don't think the story and the plot was as silly as a lot of the horror week efforts we've seen, and even reprises we've seen over the last few years. The Guardian's Peter Bradshaw, he didn't like it. He was one of the lowest scores on Metascore. He gave it 20 out of 100. It can't end well, he says. In fact, it ends badly in every sense. The mystery of Myers has long since become deflated and inert, and when he's unmasked, the camera can't quite be bothered to show us his pointless old face, unlike the helmeting of Darth Vader and Return of the Jedi, which did at least show us what the great villain looked like. The only thing that's scary is the thought of how long this has all been going on. No, I'm not bothered about an unmasking. I didn't expect a great unmasking. He is what it is. I just enjoyed the slasher elements of this. I think Peter's expecting far too much from a slasher franchise final in a trilogy film. I just didn't particularly expect too much. We didn't get too much, and I think we got what was on the tin. I think some of these critics. I think they're looking for BAFTA award films, Oscar winners here. I'm not too sure what's wrong with them, to be fair with you. IndieWire's Kate Erbland, she liked it though. She said she gave it 75. She said, if there is one lesson that Halloween Ends held, that is that this entire trilogy, this entire franchise easily imparts with blood and guts and terror to spare. It's that horror never really ends. It just takes a different shape. This story surely will too, but for now, it's concluded in fine fashion. Yes, I thought it was a good ending. And there's a lot worse. Certainly in the 13 films, there's a hell of a lot worse than this one. And I would put this in the top 5, in fairness, of all of the films. So there you go. Right, my little thoughts before we go. As you can tell, I'm in the minority. I'll accept that, but I liked it. I thought this was absolutely fine. I didn't look at any reviews before I watched it. I was a bit surprised with some of the nastiness in some of the reviews and the anger for something that, it's just a throwaway horror at the end of the day. And for me, an interesting end to a long franchise. Of course, it's been. Of course, it might appear again. There's nothing wrong with Halloween set in the future, was there? Remember that one? I can't remember. Was it H2O? I can't remember now. But it's just a bit of fun. Don't take it too seriously. I'm going to give this a 7 out of 10. I thoroughly enjoyed it. As I said, perhaps 10, 20 minutes too long. But yeah, not universally liked, but I was happy with it. A decent triple, this last 3 films in 2018 to this. with this third in the package. I liked Michael not being central to this, as far as being the main guy you sort of stuck up for, and then you sort of didn't stick up for. But as I said, it was perhaps 20 minutes too long. I like the story. I like the characters. I invested in 2 or 3, which I can't always say that for horror films. Enjoyed the deaths, some okay killing. The ending was a bit over the top, perhaps, but I could see the full point of it. And again, didn't ruin anything particularly. And it'll do for me. And my good lady likes it as well, so it's all good for me. I liked it, but as I say, if you're one of the majority who didn't, it is what it is. But I liked it anyway. Let me know your comments, guys. Thanks for watching. Please, until we meet again, stay safe, everyone. Bye for now.